What's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay for real, and we got OGG with the XYZ podcast. Let's get it started today. You feel me? Where should we get started? Oh my god, dude! NFL. Let's get it started with the big NFL. Last
Big
week,
NFL.
last week of the NFL. Two more teams that can make it: Cincinnati and the Dolphins. What is your take?
Well, I'd like to see Cincinnati make it.
Really?
Even though I'd like to see Cincinnati make it.
I would hate. Well, I would never want Joe Burrow to be in the playoffs. As a Steelers
I didn't know
fan,
your generation was such a hater like that, man.
man, he's in our division. What are you talking about, old man? Huh?
Born in Nebraska, man. I got to give him some love.
What team are you going for? First, you were talking about Lamar Jackson, the love. Now you're talking about Joe Burrow. Where's our love for our boy Russ? You got the terrible towel back there. Where's our love for Russ?
I can make him want to get to the playoffs. I didn't say I want him to win. There's a difference. There's definitely a difference. I have no love.
But we
no
see
love
what
for
happens when Joe
Dolphins.
Shiesty is
I
in the
definitely don't have
playoffs.
no love for the Broncos, Chiefs. Come on, man.
Okay.
I will continue it as always. The NFL playoffs, it's really simple. It's the ABCs of the NFL. Anybody but Chiefs.
Anybody but Chiefs.
That's you, Travis Kelce. Someday, if you listen to us, we don't want you to win anymore.
We don't
I'm
want
going to be your number
Y'all
one
have
hater.
enough rings, man. We already experienced this with Gronk and Brady. We don't need to experience it again.
Enough already.
Enough.
The ABCs of the NFL.
ABC. Anybody but the Chiefs. But man,
But I don't think they're getting in. You know,
you don't
I
think
don't
the
think
Chiefs are gonna make it all the way this season?
no, I don't think the Bengals can get in.
You don't think the Bagels can?
No.
Yeah.
I don't see Miami. Well, I guess Tua looks like he's not going to play, but it is the Jets. I don't know if they can get out of
Jets
their own
fall
way.
apart, just like every season, right? No matter how many players they get, who they get, their
Yeah.
franchise just falls apart every season.
The Jets, the Knicks, New
Yeah.
York is just a thing.
New York, man.
They think they're better than they are. You know,
At least the
Are
fans
they better
come
than
out
what we got?
sometimes. Nah,
so
but man, we got to take a look back on this season, man. I feel like it was an extraordinary season for football in general. I feel like there was a lot of competitiveness in it, whether like quarterback or running back, receiver. It was all good competitions between all. But I'm gonna ask you,
what are you going to ask?
who is your MVP?
Who is my MVP?
Yeah,
The general manager for the Eagles, probably, for bringing in Saquon. That makes him the MVP. I'm just kidding.
what about the Ravens
So-
getting Derrick Henry?
But Saquon's turned into more wins than Derrick Henry's brought to the Ravens. Granted, the divisions are totally different. Everything's tougher. I wish Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley would get more love for the MVP.
I do too.
Both of them, because the Ravens are a better team when Derrick Henry gets the ball more, and 100%.
The Eagles are better when Saquon gets the ball.
Yes.
Saquon's
I
really
know-
turning into that offense.
I know they want to be healthy. But when you've got a player this close to setting a record, you got to feed him, man. 100%. If a quarterback was about to break the NFL passing record, especially if you're talking about a record that's been around as long as it has,
you gotta try to break it.
yes, I don't care what anybody says.
I think Saquon's earned that choice whether or not.
Yes. I didn't like what Cam Ward did, where he played only long enough to get the record and then left in a game that mattered. But I think you give Saquon the opportunity because no matter what happens, people act like records don't matter, but of course they do. The NBA, they talk about LeBron setting the scoring record. They talk about Jordan's records of points per game and things. Records absolutely a part of what defines you.
Yes. And if you have
Absolutely.
a chance
If
to
he
make
never wins,
history,
if he never wins a Super Bowl, if the Eagles don't win a Super Bowl and he doesn't get a Super Bowl, Saquon Barkley will be remembered well. But if they never win a Super Bowl and he sets the rushing record, if he played tomorrow and went off for 225 yards and breaks the record by 100 yards, absolutely 10 years from now, if that record's still standing, people will still be talking about that epic year.
yeah.
And I was, as a fan of the NFL, of sports, I would love to see him get that opportunity. I hate them sitting him down. I know what you're trying to do. I understand it. But as a fan, I still want to go see records get broken.
They're meant to be broken.
If you had a player in the NBA now.
I mean, you've been alive to see all the records back in the day, right?
Yes.
So it's like yeah. So it's just like being able to see that now, I feel like would be.
Well, you remember, like, part of what got you really into football was Adrian Peterson's comeback.
Yeah.
Right? That was one of the launching points of your fandom of sports.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson was the reason I got into sports.
And the season football, he came back off his torn ACL and was this close to breaking the record.
Yeah.
You know,
all it would have took is that dumbass receiver to just block.
We have to look back and see who didn't do a nice block on that. Yeah. He was one decent block away from the record, from scoring a touchdown and a record.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see him play. I am loving the playoffs this year. I think this year is going to be one of the best playoffs in a long time. So we were talking about it earlier. We were talking about earlier the standings right now. If the playoffs, if everything stayed equal right now, the Ravens play the Chargers in the first round. If they were to win, they would get the winner. Let's just say the Bills beat the Broncos like they should. You'd get the Bills if they were able to beat the Bills.
Yeah.
And this is not saying I'm predicting that, but if they were, they'd get the Chiefs. And assuming obviously the Chiefs beat the winner of the Steelers-Texans, which they should. I hate to say it. But if that were all to happen, for Lamar Jackson to go to the Super Bowl, Lamar would have to beat Herbert, Josh Allen, and Mahomes in a row.
Happening.
If it is, I mean, that's an epic run. I'm going to have to start looking through and see what quarterback has made a run like that. And then the crazy thing is, if he does that, the resume, when I say the resume, how they've established themselves, I know they don't have, only Mahomes has the resume of winning the Super Bowl out of those guys, but Burrow's been to the Super Bowl. He's
beat Mahomes in the playoffs.
Yes. But if you go to the NFC and we look at the quarterbacks, you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Russell Wilson, Super Bowl winner in Mahomes.
Yep.
But Russ is obviously past his prime. But
Russ
there are
still, I mean, these last couple games he's been showing his prime. I'm not gonna lie.
But I'm just saying overall he's not at the peak of where he was every game. He's not right now at Mahomes level, Herbert, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also doesn't have a receiver though.
No.
Doesn't have a receiver.
And he doesn't have the continuity. Continuity matters.
We haven't had Pickens.
We haven't had Pickens, and we don't have a true number two.
Or 3 or 4 or 5.
Or 3 or 4 or 5. But you look at the NFC, and you've got Jared Goff, who's been a nice quarterback, but nobody's going to put him generally in the conversation with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Mahomes. He's really good, but he's not at that level. Jordan Love is starting to ascend. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts the view of him is up and down, right?
Yeah, sometimes he looks good. Sometimes he looks okay.
Yeah. Matthew Stafford is a hell of a quarterback. I feel like he gets forgotten a lot. I feel like Stafford.
Yeah, I mean the thing is with the Rams, man. The Rams are like a sneaky good team.
Sneaky good team. But I also feel like Stafford gets overlooked. I think out of the one quarterback that I don't think
Man,
gets enough
didn't they start
credit.
off the season with like a losing record, and now they're ending it off with they're 10-6 right now.
Yeah. Well, Stafford and Joe Burrow, the Bengals and the Rams, are the two teams that nobody wants to play. Let's
No,
be honest about that.
they hit that like peak where they just got everything together, man, and I don't see a lot of teams stopping them right now.
Yeah. Now the advantage the Rams have is they're a better team overall.
They also are in the NFC.
They're in the NFC, but you look at their draft picks the last couple years, and the Rams as an organization have really nailed a lot of their picks. They with Aaron Donald retiring, you'd have thought, oh, their defense is going to be awful. They loaded up on the D line to compensate. They said, well, if we're going to lose one guy. They've drafted 3 players on their defensive line in the last 2 years that are all playing really well. Are any of them anywhere near Donald? No, but they
No.
said strength in numbers. We're going to replace one epic all-time great, and we're going to bring in as good of a group of players as we can. So hopefully the 3 of these guys can collectively, as a team, do what Aaron Donald was done.
Yeah.
And it's starting to gel. They had a pick last year, 2 this year on their D line, and they're playing much better. I have to give kudos to the Rams of
Great Bills. I wish the Steelers
yeah.
would do that.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you think the Broncos are sitting everybody against the
Yeah.
everybody against Kansas against the Broncos. So the Broncos have to lose and the Dolphins have to lose in order for the Bengals to get in.
Yep.
I don't see that happening. I could see the Dolphins losing without 2. I could see that happening, but it would just take an epic meltdown by Denver with Mahomes sitting out, Kelsey sitting out. You never know. It is the NFL. The players that play for Kansas City are still going to play with pride, right? Like they're not going to, contrary to what people think, they might not want Cincinnati to get, but they're not scared of Cincinnati,
and they're 15-1. They don't want to. They want that record to look 16-1. I bet.
So the players that show up are going to play. They're not an organization that's just going to tank a game. We're not talking about the Giants or the Jets.
Or the Cowboys.
We're not talking about the Cowboys.
Or just the whole NFC East besides the Eagles.
Yes. So, anyway, getting back to your original question that I
Shout out
went
Danny
in my
Daniels,
old man where I went around the horn on the whole thing and never answered your question. I'd like to see Saquon Barkley. You know what?
Win MVP.
I'd like to see a running back win the MVP. I'd like to see a running back. I'd like them to play him tomorrow. He goes for 250 and wins the MVP.
That would be extraordinary. I feel like if he gets the record, if they let him get it, he should win it. If not,
and they won't.
They probably
What
won't.
do you got?
All right, this is just if he makes the playoffs. If he makes the playoffs, got to give it to XWHYZ. Got to.
If they pull it out and make it,
I mean, it's just.
I'm good with that. If they go, if he doesn't go to the playoffs, he can't win it.
Nah, he can't.
Can't.
But if he doesn't go to the playoffs and Saquon doesn't get the record, it's Lamar, Josh Allen. Between those two.
Lamar.
Yeah.
I've changed. I've flipped on it.
You completely went? It's just wild what Joe Burrow's doing right now, man. 4,641 yards and counting with 42 TDs and counting. That's just.
He'll probably have 5,000. Yeah.
Quarterback rating has one of the highest quarterback ratings.
Yards.
Yeah. He's tied at quarterback rating with Josh Allen right now. It's wild.
Oh. I got a subject that we didn't talking about, but I got to throw it in. About the NFL. Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Disappeared.
So, I don't know if you saw that he made the Pro Bowl again. He made the Pro Bowl. Yes. Minka even had the same look on his face. He was actually shocked. And they were interviewing him, asking about how the season went, and he said he made a comment about how they're using him defensively, that his role has actually changed. And if that's the case, if you have Minka, that's I consider to be about the best ball hawk safety in the NFL. If you are not using him in the way that is optimal, why do you have him back there? What are you doing?
Yeah. They're just
because he doesn't seem aggressive.
yeah.
They have him.
They haven't played. He just
But if
disappeared.
it's a change in their scheme, if it's a change in their scheme of what they wanted to do,
Trade him.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Trade him.
The Steelers defense isn't I'm not a fan of. The further they've gotten away from Dick LeBeau, the less I'm a fan of this new coordinator. I feel they've lost their edge from the era of Dick LeBeau. I wish I'd like to see them move on with a fresh mind on the D side. I feel like the offense is better.
Yeah.
With the new offensive coordinator, we need more weapons.
Arthur Smith
we need more weapons.
Arthur Smith is nice. We should have kept Brian Flores.
Yes, I feel like Brian Flores, along with Arthur Smith,
would have been a good with Mike Tomlin as the head coach. That's a good coaching room. You know what I'm saying? Those are all coaches that have been head coaches.
So I'm pulling for Saquon. Who you got to win?
Burrow.
MVP.
Burrow.
Are you just gonna go with Lamar?
Burrow.
All right.
Joe Shiesty. Burrow. Yeah. Come on now. That's what I'm saying. His stats are insane. Saquon's are insane too.
He's got to get to the playoffs.
But
I like him, but he's got to get to the playoffs.
And also, MVP isn't really MVP. It's most valuable quarterback, not most valuable player. If you think about it, it's more favored to quarterbacks, anyways. But yeah. But let's head on to the NBA though. NBA. Man. You've been hearing all them talks about Jimmy Butler, De'Aaron Fox, all that. Where do you think Jimmy's going? Or you think he's even going to be traded?
Oh, he's going to be traded. He's forcing himself out of Miami. They're not keeping him. He's forcing his way out.
Isn't he suspended for like 6 or 9 games?
For 7, yeah.
7 games?
Yeah, I think they said 7, something like that. You can tell he's checked out. And to be honest, if I'm Miami, if I'm Pat Riley, why do you not want to trade him? I don't understand teams that don't understand that they definitely are not good enough to win, that are obsessed with holding on to a veteran player that is only detrimental in keeping you from rebuilding. And what I mean by that is Miami's got enough young guys that I'm not saying to tank, but to be bad enough, give up Jimmy.
They easily get a pick. They're not going to win anything.
They're not going to win anything. This is the year to tank. What I mean by that, there might not be a Wemby superstar,
but it's a deep draft.
It's a very deep draft. If this is the year, if you had 2 top 10 picks in the draft, you have a really good opportunity to rebuild your team.
Yes.
If you're Miami and you could
100% just trade Jimmy just for picks.
Yeah.
Now, if teams aren't seeing this now, the way that teams are rebuilding is getting bulking and draft picks. We just saw OKC do it, and we're seeing the Spurs do it now. Just bulk your team up with draft picks and go for the future.
Where would you go if you're Jimmy?
We're in an era right now where most of these elite players are at the ending stage of their career. You know what I'm saying? We're getting into that new generation, and teams need to stop holding on to their players. Besides the Warriors, obviously, I don't think Curry will be going anywhere. I feel like you can still win with Curry, but they might need to figure something out. You know what I'm saying? If a team is gonna go the route of holding on to their veteran player, their veteran star, then you have to build around him right now. Either you get rid of him or you have to build for him right now, right?
So I just looked up and saw on ESPN or Sporting News listed it that the teams that Jimmy Butler prefers are the Suns, Warriors, Mavericks, or Rockets.
The Suns,
Um,
Mavericks.
Out of those teams, I don't I don't know why you want to go to the Suns.
Yeah, go to
The
the
Suns aren't
Mavericks.
winning
Go to the
enough.
Mavericks.
Go to the only team, honestly, no disrespect to your Warriors, but he doesn't fix the
I don't want
size.
Jimmy. I don't want Jimmy.
Yeah,
It does.
he
It just
doesn't. He's not what the Warriors need. We already
good
have.
player though. Good, damn good. We already have
Oh
our.
no,
He would just be an elite. Like he just a more elite, talented Draymond in a sense.
yes,
In other ways. But we don't need that. Like we don't need that.
yes. The
Especially because
Mavericks,
he's not the
100%.
best shooter. He's not the best shooter right now. He's in a little
The
bit of a slump.
Mavericks, 100% should go after him.
Mavericks 100%.
100%. You put him if they can get him for draft picks and not give up. I mean, obviously, you're not giving up Kyrie, you're not giving up Luca, you're not giving up Derek Lively.
We give up
Um,
Clay. Isn't his
I don't think they want Clay. I think they want some picks. You'd have to figure out the money. I
yeah.
don't know who they have that they can match. Um,
Yeah, that's true.
you'd have to convince Clay now to come off the bench if he came over. If they were able to work out the numbers somehow.
Clay ain't
Um,
gonna do that.
maybe Jimmy would come off the bench.
Probably.
He'd probably come off the bench.
He probably
The
loves
only
that.
reason I think he just wants to win. You know what I mean? I think you add him to the Mavericks, and now they're 100% in the conversation of winning it. They already are, but you add his toughness. He has
His grit.
his grit is just a little different, and I love Kyrie's grit, and I love Luca's, but man, his you could limit his minutes where he has more energy, where he wouldn't get worn down the way he was with Miami. Um, I don't think the Rockets, even though they're a really good team, I still think it's going to take. Young teams don't win right away, and by the time the Rockets would
Yeah,
be ready to win,
Celtics didn't care about that.
what's that?
You said young teams don't win right away.
Yeah, but the Celtics didn't win right away. It took them a few trips. What I'm saying is the Rockets are where the Celtics were like 3 or 4 years ago, right? So the
Still young though.
Celtics,
They're still hella young.
but they're still young, but they're not. They're still older than the core players for the Rockets.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Celtics didn't win right away. They went through losses in the
They
playoffs, and
did.
that's really common.
Yeah.
So if you're Jimmy Butler, you don't want to go to the Rockets and have to lose 3 different years in the playoffs to get to a fourth year when you're 39, hoping you still got something in the tank.
Yeah.
That's not me trying to disrespect the Rockets. That's just the way the NBA is. That's the way sports are. It's rare that you have a team as much as I love Wemby. The reality is they're not going to go to the NBA Finals next year.
What do the Spurs need to make that step, man?
We need one more shooter, one
Y'all
more
need a
guy that can help.
big too. Y'all need a big
Another
like
big.
Wemby.
Yeah,
Or like
I
a
think our
like a
backcourt is really solid. I like Castle.
Castle.
I like Devin Vassell.
Isn't
Um,
Castle leading in the rookie standings right
he
now?
was. He's up and down. Like the rookie ladder is up and down. He was leading it. Now he's dropped. He'll go up. He needs to work on his shooting. He's not a great shooter yet. Um, but he's super athletic.
High
Him and
basketball
Vassell,
IQ. Very
yeah, high basketball IQ. Um, I like him and Vassell. I'm still Sohan is only 6'8", playing power forward, and I feel like
He's a
I
good role
think I,
player. He's not a
I think at
starter.
some point him and Keldon Johnson, one of them has to be traded because they're both undersized for what they do. Um, they need a 6'10", 6'11" power forward. I don't know if they have anybody on their roster that they could do a multi-team trade. I think Michael Porter Jr. on the Spurs would be nice.
Michael Porter would be a good trade.
Yeah, and I know for whatever If
De'Aaron
I'm
Fox is a good trade. If y'all can,
De'Aaron Fox is a good trade because you could move Castle to small forward. He's athletic enough at 6'6" to play small forward.
yeah,
Now, granted, I don't know what you'd have to give up. I don't know if it'd be you don't want to give up too much to get him, even though he'd be a great get. So a lot would depend. You don't want to give up two young players. I'd want to give up. I mean, if I had to give up either Castle or Vassell, along with Sohan or Keldon Johnson in a pick
I do.
to get him. Yeah, but I would want to keep Vassell. I feel like Vassell and Castle are similar players, and I would only be willing to give up one or the other between Keldon and Sohan as a bench player, and then in the draft go out and try to get a small forward and power forward.
Yeah.
But
Man,
De'Aaron Fox,
for my freaking Warriors, man. Oh man, I don't know if there's much left for us. I feel like if we made a trade for De'Aaron Fox, it could get interesting. I still think at the end of the day, we need a big. I know we need a big. We need a big, man. I don't know. I feel like we should try to trade at this point, man. We should try to trade Kuminga for a big, like Lauri Markkanen or somebody, or even like Walker Kessler. And then maybe if we try to get another star like that, we could. Like we just need.
Lauri Markkanen would.
Jimmy trade would work if we got a big, or De'Aaron Fox trade would work if we had a big. We need.
Well, I think if you were to trade Kuminga,
I think the only way we can do it. I don't think we're going to get rid of Curry. I think Curry's staying. So if that's our thing, that we need to trade some of our young guys, and I think Kuminga might be the first one. I don't want to trade Kuminga. I think he has a lot of potential. They haven't really given him the opportunities, so I think at this point, man, we just got to part ways. Like I don't want to end up where I'm trusting a process that as long as the 76ers trust the process. Because guess what? Their process never happened. And now it's too late. I mean, Joel Embiid's like in his 30s now, and they're still talking about trust the process. It gets to a point, and he's not even playing right now. He's injury prone. Their process broke up. They had a chance to win when Joel Embiid was at his prime, when Ben Simmons was actually good in his prime, and when they had Jimmy Butler. They had a chance to keep that team together and build and trust the process and become good, but they didn't. So I think if we keep waiting, the chances of Curry getting another ring are already pretty slim, but it's not over. You know what I'm saying? So they got to make something happen now, or that window's just going to completely shut.
They have to make a big move.
They have to make a move this year. They have to make a move in 2025. Maybe not either this season or next season. It doesn't matter. This season or next season, we need to make a move in 2025 or his window's closed. Completely. The Warriors are done.
They need another scorer. A big scorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, let's head over to we haven't really looked at the stats in the NBA, have we?
No, we haven't really looked. Let's take a peek where we're sitting with everything.
So I've been hearing a lot of ramping up of Shy winning MVP this year.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of hype on it.
31 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block. Not bad, but Giannis is playing too. 32
Giannis,
points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.5.
Joker stats are amazing.
Wemby, man. Wemby's coming in. He's almost in the top 5.
Wemby's at 26 points a game. At just under 33 minutes a game.
He's averaging 4 blocks. Wemby's averaging 4 blocks a game. Is that even real?
And the crazy thing is, I think it might even get better as he goes on. He's just continually improves his timing. You remember a year ago we went to see the Nuggets and the Spurs, and Joker just punked.
I wasn't at that game.
Oh, that was just me and your mom, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Joker made him look young, and they just played, and that was a battle. It was an all-out battle. They both, I think, had 18 rebounds. It was 41 points and 37, 38 for Wemby. Damn. Wemby was actually more efficient on his scoring. It was a battle. Like Joker made a comment about how far Wemby's come. And if you think about it, it was less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago.
It was less than. a year ago. He's come a long way, and he's only going to get better. It's just optimal for the Spurs to surround him with players that work. I like a lot of their players. They need a second true star. You don't have to have a big three, but you need a second. That's why the De'Aaron Fox thing works, because now you have your second guy.
Yeah.
You have your second guy.
That's true. But I think Wemby can be, by next year he might be MVP. I think this year they got to give him Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, he should have won it last year. I don't think there's anybody that could be the Defensive Player of the Year.
I think for the next couple of years, man. As long as
I think if he's healthy for the next 10 years, you're going to see him go on a run where
who has the most defensive player of the years? What player has the most defensive player of the years ever?
I have to look that up. Jordan had a couple. I wonder how many Dikembe Mutombo had. Let me look that up.
But yeah, I think Wemby will at least have 8+, maybe. But yeah, I think Wemby will probably be the MVP next season, with on top of being Defensive Player of the Year. I think y'all get a couple more pieces, man. That's gonna be a dynasty. It already is. Having Wemby on your team, it already is a dynasty. But
embarrassingly enough, Gobert had 3. Kawhi Leonard had a couple back-to-back when he was with the Spurs, and those were earned. Dwight Howard had 3 in a row. Ben Wallace had 4. Alonzo Mourning. So, like most of the time you look around the Defensive Player of the Year, they've generally been big guys that protect the rim. Michael Jordan, yeah, he won it in '88 when the amazing season he had. And then you had Olajuwon and Rodman, Robinson. Ben Wallace was just a monster defender at power forward that he could guard guys. He could guard guys that were smaller.
The original Draymond.
Yes.
Draymond before Draymond.
Yes. Probably a rougher Draymond, man. Ben Wallace, that dude was, oof.
Love to see them battle that out.
He was almost the NBA's version of James Harrison. That was a tough dude.
I'd love to see them fight. Not even play basketball. They would just fight.
Oh, man.
Hey. Well, let's move on to the last one. This is going to be good talks, man. College football! Got to talk about that, boy. You know who I'm going to say.
I know what you're about to say.
Say it. Scatter.
Cam Scatterboo.
Scatterboo. Scatterboo.
Oh.
Scatterboo. Man. Was this some good, unexpected college games, man? This is why I love college football, man, because it's always unexpected.
Always unexpected. I thought ASU was going to get rolled. Early on, it looked that way.
That boy Scatterboo proved himself, and I can't lie. I might have to call myself a college football casual for this, but I didn't know the season that he was having pre this game. But I went back.
Nobody talked about him. He didn't get any discussion nationally. Nobody talked about it.
But I looked back, looked at his film, looked at his stats. Man, I'll tell you this right now. It wasn't just that game. Arizona State wouldn't even be close to where they're at if he wasn't on that team. And I think NFL scouts need to see that and take a chance on Cam Scatterboo. I think any team would love to have a player like that. I think he would fit with any team. If you want to win, he's a winning player. You're adding a winning piece to your team. Much respect for Cam, man.
So what do you think of the non-call?
The non-targeting call? Targeting? The targeting, that was bull. That was BS. I can't lie. I mean, that was clear in day that it was a targeting. I mean, like, straight helmet to helmet, knocked him. And you could tell he got a concussion by the way he was acting. You could tell he had a concussion. So I don't understand what stopped them from calling that. I feel like there's a little bit of bias. I feel like
Well, I think
UT, there's always
100%.
bias with like teams like UT and even in the NFL with like the Chiefs. There's bias with refs and it's just getting out of hand. Like that.
I don't even know how much it was biased for UT as against Arizona State.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is how much more they wanted the idea of an Ohio State / Oregon versus Texas versus an Ohio State, Oregon versus ASU. I feel like they didn't want Arizona State to crash the party.
Yeah.
You know, and there was some comments about, well, they didn't want the outcome of the game decided by a penalty. If it's a penalty in the first quarter, it's a penalty in the second quarter. And if you're not going to call it, and let me be clear. Let me be clear. I don't like the rule that's targeting because I don't feel like that the Texas player maliciously did it. Like I get the original.
Okay, but they always call it.
No. That's my point. They need to reevaluate what they're going to call targeting. Because if it's targeting, I feel like they need to look at the film.
I've seen.
You can tell when it looks malicious.
I've seen less be called targeting than that. I've seen less. And that's costed games.
And the worst part is targeting is the one call in football that they actually just review to see if it actually occurred or not. They don't review and say, oh, we changed our mind. That wasn't holding. That wasn't pass interference. They literally look at it objectively and decide yes or no, was that really a penalty? 100% under the modern rules, that was targeting.
That was targeting. I mean,
so you either need to call it.
Need to keep it like that.
They either need to call it, or they need to go in the off season and make the interpretation
Reevaluate it.
And make it a much stricter. And I don't even like players being ejected. If they would have called that targeting, I would have actually then felt bad for the Texas defender, because even though there was helmet to helmet contact, I don't feel like he maliciously made a play to hurt somebody. Yeah. I think it was a football play, but under the current rules, you still have to call it.
You do.
And I hate that one of the biggest discussion besides how Cam Scottigboo played is everybody's discussing the non-call. And you're putting too much onto the referees. You're letting conspiracy theories, so to speak, from everybody. Like they wanted UT to win. They didn't want Arizona State to win. It's a bad look. You know, it's just a bad look.
Ohio State puts belt to ass.
I think
BTA.
UT is going to have their hands full with Ohio State.
I hope Ohio State puts BTA, man. BTA. I ain't gonna lie. I think Penn State Notre Dame is gonna be a really good game. I know Penn State was gonna win. I didn't think Notre Dame was gonna win, but I'll tell you right now, Ohio State and Notre Dame are.
That'd be a nice matchup.
Those are two very physical, fast football teams. I'll tell you that.
Yes, they both play fast. They both play physical.
I don't think UT is like that. UT isn't built like that. UT is a flashy team. They're not.
Yeah, they're a big play. They're a big play, flashy team.
They're a big splashy play. Yep. I think they're keep up.
I think they're gonna have a hard time with the receivers.
Ohio State's about to cook them.
Well, they're gonna have a hard time with those receivers. As long as, yeah, it's gonna be tough. UT has talent. Ohio State just in 2024/25 has the best talent 20 million can buy.
Yeah, I mean money buys, right?
Yeah.
Money buys, shoot. Money buys at the end of the day.
They have a nice D-line. They're really solid in the secondary. Caleb Downs is amazing. But Jeremiah Smith, man, that dude, just throw him the ball and let him go up and get it. He can do everything. I mean, you watch him, he's not just a big-bodied receiver that they do go routes with. They throw wide receiver screens, little slip routes. They throw underneath.
Yeah.
He's somebody was talking about him being Terrell Owens, but he's much more than a Terrell Owens. He's a lot shiftier. And I'd guess to say he probably already has better hands. That was probably, if I were to say one weakness that Terrell Owens had, he had the drops here and there. Not all the time, but here and there.
Yeah.
You're never going to put him in the same category as some of the elite hand receivers.
Yeah.
I feel like all modern receivers have the advantage that the game has evolved, just like three-point shooters in the NBA have evolved. It's hard to compare generations because receivers are trained from such a young age to be a better receiver. They're just at 8 years old, they're doing drills to catch a football, and that literally wasn't a thing. Jerry Rice was catching bricks when his dad was a mason and get strong hands.
That's how he got his hands, yeah.
Yes, but modern kids aren't doing that. But they're at camps, they're out on the field, and they're catching the ball with perfect form, and they're one-handing, catching the football with one hand. Stuff that looked amazing and flashy 10 years ago is commonplace now.
Yeah, you just one hand catches. It's a one hand catch. It's just a catch.
Yes. So I do think we actually ended up with two really nice semifinal matchups. I feel bad, and I think I've heard that multiple people talk about it. I feel bad for Oregon out of everybody. I don't know how you're the number one seed and you get Ohio State as your first matchup.
Yeah.
Everybody knew Ohio State probably underperformed a little bit this year.
Also, they're all these teams buys, man. I think it was too much. What was it, like 3 weeks of them not playing any football?
Yeah,
I think that had a little bit to do with them being a little sloppy in the beginning. Every game that you watch, all these teams came out of the gate sloppy. They kind of picked it up in the second half, but all these teams came out sloppy, and I feel like that had to do with 3 weeks of not playing any football.
Well, I think Ohio State playing Tennessee, they had the opportunity to play, so they played better.
Every team that had a bye lost.
Yeah, Arizona State had a bye, and they played better in the second half as the game went on than they did early on.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it would be better. You're going to make more money. If you're going to have the college football playoff at 12, just do 16 and don't do a bye. And then now if you're the number one seed, you get a 16 seed and you get to shake off the rust playing a bad team. And when I say a bad team, you never know, because that 16 seed could have been Alabama or Ole Miss. You might be playing, a really good team, but still, Oregon, you got to win all the games, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But to get Ohio State, who I think everybody would agree has the best roster in college football, whether they were the best team throughout the year, that's obviously debatable. They didn't get the number one seed, but I think everybody absolutely agreed
that they were one of the best.
Yeah. They have the best roster. They absolutely top to bottom.
I mean, they showed it versus Oregon. Oregon has had one of the best built rosters too, and they made them look mid.
Yes. Well, they have a good roster, but nobody has a wide receiver duo like Ohio State, right?
My thing is, what do you think about next year though, with all this talk about Quinn Ewers, might go to Oregon?
That's modern football, man. It's crazy. Obviously, I don't
much now. It's just too. It's a bit much. It's getting a bit much now.
I think they need to limit. I think they need to figure out a way to limit transfers to one time. You can transfer a second time, but you sit out a year unless you're a grad transfer. So if I love the idea of you being able to transfer one time, because if you get to a school, I get that guys don't want to sit for 3 years. But this thing of a guy transferring in, there's a receiver that Nebraska had that was going to try to go pro. Now he's not. He's going to be on his fourth team next year. He started out, I think, at Wyoming, went to UT, came to Nebraska.
And I get other players, and I get it for other players that are starting out at like a JUCO or something and making their way up. I understand that. You know what I'm saying? But these elite, not I won't say elite, but these players that are at like Oregon or Ohio State or UT and just trying to move around like that,
yeah,
just it just kills the game. It kills the loyalty. I mean, these are top teams in the nations that are here to compete, and your team is in the playoffs. Your team has a chance to win it, and you're leaving, regardless if you're starting or not. Regardless if you're starting or not, your team. I was just saying, Quinn Ewers, your team is in the playoffs right now, and you have a shot to win it.
And there's conversations about you going to a team that's already been knocked out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why this shouldn't even be anything talked about yet. First off, this shouldn't even be anything talked about till after the season. First off. Second off, it's just a bad look, man. I mean, you had a good year. You didn't have the best year. And how does this look for your draft stock now? You know what I'm saying? Everything that you do now will affect your draft stock. Anything in football and outside of football. If you're not the number one player in the country, it can affect your draft stock. You know what I'm saying? It can even affect the number one player's draft stock. We've all seen it before. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why do this? Like, you're already going to be projected pretty high. You're a good player. You're a solid quarterback. Why, like, ruin it by doing this? Especially now. It just looks bad. Like, your team's in the playoffs, and you're going... Not even that. It looks like one of those things because Oregon's also the number one team. So it's like, oh, Texas wasn't the number one team, so he's going to Oregon number one team next year. Like, he's already bailing on his team. Even though they're in the playoffs, still strong. I can say what I said about them earlier, but UT still has a chance to win it. I'm not gonna count them out. Every one of these four teams has a chance to win it all. At the end of the day, they all have a chance to win it all.
Absolutely,
100%.
I might think that Ohio State's going to win, but UT has the talent to show up.
UT has the talent to win this game. Absolutely. I'm not gonna call you and say UT has no shot at winning this. UT 100% has just as much to win this as much as Ohio State does.
No, absolutely. Penn State, all four teams could win the national championship.
All four teams can win the national championship.
All four teams have weaknesses. The reality is none of these teams are loaded to the point and mistake-free to the point. None of these teams are prime Alabama. None of these teams are similar to the Georgia teams from a couple of years ago. None of these teams are the historic Miami Hurricane teams from 20 years ago. None of these are the Nebraska 90s teams that were running rush. Man, it's a reality. It may be ancient history, but it's the truth. You know, by the time we were winning our second and third titles, our first one, but by the time we were hitting second and third in 4 years, we were killing it.
I'll give it to y'all old Nebraska fans, though. Y'all always will show up no matter what. I'll say y'all understand the term of loyalty. I respect that 100%. But damn. But damn. It's been a while. But.
All right. So I think we both got Ohio State beating Texas, and we both want Ohio State to run the wheels off of Texas.
Yeah.
Who you got? Penn State, Notre Dame.
Man, Notre Dame just looks physical.
They look really big. And they looked physical and fast against Georgia,
which is a physical and fast defense.
Yes, that's what impressed me. I wasn't sure how Notre Dame was going to look. I knew they looked fast and physical against Indiana. That was expected.
SEC defenses just got exposed this week. Let's just be honest. they might not be all what we thought they were.
Well, I think a lot of it, this all the portal is changing everything, and it's going to continue to change college football. The days, I think, of a backup player that's a freshman that wants to play is now impatient and is going to leave after his freshman year to go play somewhere because there's a sophomore in front of him, and he's not willing to wait. Arch Manning sitting 2 years behind yours is
Respect.
one of the respect and just one of the craziest things in modern football. It sounds crazy that we say that it's crazy, and not that I'm calling him crazy, but the fact that how many players of his caliber would sit a second year when Ewers came back and he wasn't announced the starter. If he would have said in the spring that he was entering the portal, can you imagine the teams that would have been going after him?
Everybody. I mean, we probably have that talk of Oregon trying to get him.
I mean,
Georgia.
Would Georgia have wanted to upgrade and said, you know what, Carson Beck, you can go elsewhere? You know? Ohio State. Will Howard's okay, but he ain't, you know. Oof. You look up and down.
Oof. But yeah.
Yeah. Tennessee. Would Tennessee have loved to have had him? Does he change their outcome?
But yeah, man.
What does UT do if what if Ewers says I want to come back to UT? Or do they just push him completely out?
I think he's out. I think that spot is for Arch Manning now. I mean, this was his time. And Arch Manning showed a lot of good flashes this year. I think they're going to move with him now going forward. I think that's what the fans want, most importantly. Yeah. I think
all right. Well, I think we both agree we got Ohio State. I think we both got Notre Dame.
Yeah. We both got Notre Dame. So Notre Dame and Ohio State in the championship, and I got Ohio State winning it all.
I got Ohio State winning it all. I think they're finding their footing. I think some of their early season games that they didn't play as well was actually helpful to them. But I do think the Texas-Ohio State game is going to be a hell of a matchup. So I'm thinking the weather next week, it's going to be cold. So I think that that actually probably helps Ohio State.
Yeah.
Because it's in the Cotton Bowl. So
I think this was a good little segment, though, man.
Think it was good?
Yeah. You have any more takes?
I keep looking at that Ohio State, Texas over my other screen. I'm thinking a 9-point win.
9-point win.
9-point win, and I think
yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-score game. Ohio State maybe.
I think 9 by Ohio State.
9-14.
I think Notre Dame wins by 2.
I think it is.
And I think it's going to break Penn State's heart. They're going to miss a last second field goal that could have won the game. It's going to be a long field goal, but that's going to be their last hope is a 45-yard plus field goal.
I can see it going to OT.
So,
but all right, man.
I think it's time to wrap it up. I got to get my old butt into the gym and work out.
All right. Hey, I appreciate everybody coming in. You know what I'm saying? XYZ, old gen versus new gen. Got your boy OGG and J for real. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Guess what? We out.